Does Xbox still want to buy Nintendo? Well, the recent Xbox leaks continue to give insight into past, current, and potential future plans for their growth in gaming. We've learned about current and future hardware plans, and while those may be subject to change, it seems that Xbox had their sights on Nintendo among other potential acquisition targets. And given the language in the email from Phil Spencer, I don't think Nintendo is off the table. This would not be the first time that Microsoft has expressed interest in buying Nintendo. So the question is, well, should we be concerned about consolidation reaching beyond devs and publishers? How possible would it be to buy a direct competitor, to buy an entire platform? Well, I put all the good info right here at the start of the video, so you don't have to go looking for it. It's an opening monologue. And then I discuss it with the live audience. If you don't want to miss out on content like this or my live shows, please be sure to hit subscribe and the bell button so you don't miss my shows. Well, the Xbox leaks continue to give us insight into a lot of what Xbox is planning and discussing internally. And one major revelation that came to the surface is that they are still, aspirationally at least, interested in Nintendo. I happen to think that the email we will be looking at is more than simply aspirational, but I admit there is room for disagreement or different of opinions on this. First, I want to look at the leaks. I've already covered the hardware leaks, and we covered those first because I thought they were the most concrete. Unfortunately for Microsoft, they are also probably the most damaging. Your competitors seeing your exact hardware plans and architecture, as well as the timing, that is not ideal. We also looked at the Game Pass leaks and why they are not looking too great with respect to their growth and their goals, and they're going to need to make some changes in order to hit them. This time, we will be looking at an email from Phil Spencer about his interest in Nintendo. Now, second, I want to talk about why this is not concerning. There is a lot standing in the way of this type of an acquisition or merger. I want to look at those realities. I found it more concerning that there were people that were in support of this. They were in support of Microsoft buying Nintendo, but that is a whole separate topic. Lastly, I want to talk about why this is concerning. Much of the Xbox strategy and plan is very invested in big spending and consolidative efforts. I want to draw a clear dividing lines between timed exclusivity, third-party exclusives, buying a direct competitor. These things are not even remotely the same. So first, let's just look at the leaks. First, we have to consider the ramifications of the leaks about the hardware as well as Game Pass. Xbox's competitors now have a very clear glimpse into their hardware strategy and plans. Now, Phil Spencer did take to Twitter to say that these plans change. He tweeted the following. He said, "We've seen the conversation around old emails and documents. It is hard to see our team's work shared in this way because so much has changed and there's so much to be excited about right now and in the future. We will share the real plans when we are ready." So obviously he's implying that these leaked plans are not the quote-unquote real plans. And it seems reasonable that many of these concepts, the timelines, even the plans themselves, they may have changed to some degree. But with the Nintendo Switch 2 leaks and the potential of PS5 Pro next year, Xbox is not looking very strong on the hardware front after these leaks. The Game Pass leaks were equally alarming, as Microsoft's goals for Game Pass seem to be out of reach long term. And more than that, getting third-party games for Game Pass is far more expensive than many of us originally thought. Enough money for entire game budgets or even studio purchases are estimated for the bigger third-party games coming to Game Pass if they were to approach these games. But now we turn our attention to the infamous Nintendo email. So first, let's just look at the opening paragraph, okay? I just want to look at that first because it's a doozy, all right? I want to read and comment on aspects of this. So I have it kind of big enough so that you can see it because I know sometimes people think maybe I'm misquoting. I always do absolute due diligence to not misquote anybody, okay? Now, Phil's responding to someone named Takeshi. He says, "Takeshi, I totally agree that Nintendo is the prime asset for us in gaming, and today, gaming is our most likely path to consumer relevance. I've had numerous conversations with the LT of Nintendo about tighter collaboration and feel like if any US company would have a chance with Nintendo, we are probably in the best position." Now, this is in response to Takeshi basically saying that Nintendo would be a great target due to its, quote, rich set of franchises, and Phil is agreeing. But Phil also said that gaming is their most likely path to consumer relevance. And it's really hard to disagree with him, right? Consumers don't really think about Windows. There is not a Windows phone in the market anymore. So a massive inroad to consumer relevance would be gaming, especially with gaming's current and projected growth. Now, Phil goes on to say the unfortunate, or fortunate for Nintendo, situation is that Nintendo is sitting on a big pile of cash. They have a board of directors, BOD. They have a board of directors that until recently had not pushed for further increases in market growth or stock appreciation. I say until recently, as our former Microsoft board of directors member Value Act has been heavily acquiring shares of Nintendo, and I've kept in touch with Mason Morfitt as he's been acquiring. It's likely he will be pursuing more from Nintendo stock, which could create opportunities for us. Now, this is where I need to pause and push back on the notion that this is purely aspirational corpo speak, okay? Jez Corden and I went back and forth on Twitter. We disagreed about this. It was polite. It was cordial. That's a welcome thing on Twitter, given how caustic so many people can be. But he saw this email as, quote, aspirational corpo speak, that it wasn't really something that they were looking at, okay? I pushed back and I said, listen, you don't stay in touch with people who are heavily acquiring Nintendo shares and saying, look, this could create an opportunity for us, all right? I don't think Phil monitoring and staying in touch with those who are, quote, heavily acquiring shares of Nintendo is just aspirational speak. Phil's not asleep at the wheel. He's keeping an eye on this. He admits that this could create an opportunity. Now, I could aspirationally say that I would love to live in a bigger home, but if I'm checking home sale apps every day and I'm keeping in touch with the realtor, I don't think it's just aspirational anymore, okay? It's something that I'm actively monitoring and waiting to act on. Phil continues in the email. He says, without that catalyst, I don't see an angle to a near-term mutually agreeable merger of Nintendo and Microsoft, and I don't think a hostile action would be a good move, so we are playing the long game. But our board of directors has seen the full write-up on Nintendo and Valve, and they are fully supportive on either if opportunity arises, as am I. This is where things get a little interesting. The big debate is about the language surrounding hostile action. Many are quick to say, look, Phil says hostile action would not be a good move. Okay, that's true. He did say that. But that's also about the softest way to phrase a negative that I've ever seen. He's not saying hostile action is out of the question. He's not saying it's off the table, okay? He's just saying, yeah, it wouldn't be a good move. It's a very, very soft way to say something in a negative fashion. In business, risk assessment will sometimes having you making a decision that may or may not be a good move, okay? So saying like this is not a good move doesn't mean it's completely off the table. But the biggest takeaway, in my opinion, is that Phil says they are, quote, playing the long game. This is also, I believe, a refutation of the idea that this is just aspirational corpo speak. Phil is saying, listen, we're playing a long game. We're waiting for the right opportunity. That's not aspirational. That means you're watching this and hoping and waiting to take advantage of it, to pounce, to buy them if opportunity arises. It would be like headhunting somebody for your sports team. And you say, you know what, right now we can't make a compelling offer, so we're playing the long game, all right? That means you're actively interested. And you're going to make moves to bring about a scenario where you can make a compelling offer. This should be pretty concerning to anyone, gamers and non-gamers alike. Phil is saying they are playing the long game for a monopolistic merger with a direct competitor. Remember how strongly Microsoft argued to have Nintendo included in all the regulatory analysis? Well, it's now a matter of case law then, right? Given that the regulators approved this deal to get Activision Blizzard based off that said argumentation that, look, Nintendo's a direct competitor for Xbox. You can't argue for months that you're in third place and then turn around and try and buy or merge with the company in first or even second, right? No matter who's up there, you can't be like, listen, we're in third place. We're competing against Nintendo and we're competing against Sony, and then you're privately angling to buy one of them. That's not buying a developer. That's not buying timed exclusivity. That's monopolistic behavior. That's absolutely out of the question. We can't let something like this happen. Now, I don't feel like spending a lot of time on this, okay? But the last sentence is up for debate, okay? I don't want to belabor this point, okay? But the last sentence starts with the word but, okay? But is a conjunction. And when you start a sentence with a conjunction, you are grammatically linking the two sentences together as one thought. So as soon as he's done saying that hostile action would not be a good move and that they're playing the long game, he says but. Listen to how that sounds. Just listen to how it sounds when I say it. Listen, hostile action would not be a good move, so we're playing the long game, but you're immediately linking and acting like, but, yeah, I mean, we might do it if opportunity arises. Now, I've had folks tell me that when he says that he and the board of directors are supportive of either, that he's referring to Nintendo and Valve. Okay, I'll grant that. The antecedent to either could be in the previous sentence due to the conjunction of but it also could be Nintendo and Valve. Even if we ignore the word either, Phil is completing the previous thought about hostile action versus the long game. And he concludes that thought by saying, if opportunity arises, both myself and the board of directors support it. Interpret that however you will. I want to move on to the final paragraph, but I did want to make mention of that. I think that's fair pushback to be like, when he says either, he's referring to Nintendo and Valve. I don't think so. I don't think he's doing that because, again, the sentence starts with a conjunction, so he's completing the previous thought, which links the word either, making its antecedents the two previous things contrasted in the prior sentence. I think that grammatically makes way more sense, but let's move on. Image number 2 here for you. This is the last paragraph of the email. Phil says, I love this discussion and value you looking at opportunities here. At some point, getting Nintendo would be a career moment, and I honestly believe a good move for both companies. See, this again is not aspirational corpo speak. He's thinking about this. He's like, this would be big for my career. It'd be good for both companies. Okay, he's actually considering this. He's wanting it to happen. And the last part is the best. He says, it's just taking a long time for Nintendo to see that their future exists off of their own hardware. A long time. Smiley face. I love the smiley face. It's my favorite part. Listen, this is where folks, I think, are getting the idea that, like, this is just aspirational. This is just Phil saying, oh, this would be a career moment for me, okay? Yeah, it would be. It would be a career moment because it would be a historical moment in global economics and gaming. Like, Microsoft buying Nintendo would be historical. It would also be tectonically terrible, okay? But the real thing to notice in this section is the sheer hubris of thinking that you know better than Nintendo. The third place, let us buy to compete, non-market leader apparently knows better than the king. Let us just say that, like, Phil's right. Let's just say Nintendo does have a future that exists off of their own hardware, okay? It's just arrogant, just brazenly arrogant to posture like you know better than the king of gaming, Nintendo. But, okay, let's just grant the premise, okay? That, yeah, Nintendo, their future exists off their own hardware. Well, you think monopolistic merger between the two direct competitors, you think that's the answer? That that's good for everyone? No, it's good for Microsoft because you would acquire a huge asset in the global market. Nintendo has the means to branch out into other platforms if they want. They don't need Microsoft for that. They've launched mobile games. They could easily port games to PC if they wanted. For goodness sakes, emulators and modders already do that. You think they need Microsoft to get their games on PC? They don't need Microsoft for that. Sony is significantly smaller than Microsoft, has less money than Microsoft. Has that hindered Sony's ability to bring their games to PC? Has that hindered Sony's ability to invest in cloud? No. Nintendo apparently won't be able to figure this out without the third place market loser helping them. The whole thing is just laughable. But obviously, if you're like me and you care about the gaming economy more than getting Mario on Game Pass, because that'll save you a little bit of money, is this concerning, right? If you're like me and you look at this and go, whoa, you're talking about buying a direct competitor now. You're not talking about buying a studio. Let's first look at why this is not concerning. First, Nintendo has done stock buybacks, okay? As my research was able to look at this, I quickly did some searches. It looks like they did a stock buyback in 2021 and then again in 2022. These emails were sent in 2020, so this might have been done in response. We don't directly know if this was done in response to that, but Phil's talking in 2020 about this Company Value Act making aggressive purchases of shares, and then in 2021 and 2022, Nintendo's doing stock buybacks. As it stands right now, that Company Value Act currently holds less than 2% of Nintendo shares. So I don't think there's a concern there. And hopefully now with this email out there, Nintendo's like, aha, gotcha, we're on to you if you try to do this. Now, it's not definitive. We don't know if Nintendo was paying attention to this. We don't know if they had other completely unrelated motives to stock buyback. You do that at different times as a company for varying degrees and for different reasons. Now, after this email, I really hope Nintendo is paying attention to this. Any partnership, any talks, not even about a merger, just any sort of semblance of a business relationship between Xbox and Nintendo, I would imagine it's in a bit of a different light right now. If I were Nintendo, I would walk Phil to the door. I would end any discussions. I would not let Microsoft in the door. You don't need Microsoft for anything that they have. You don't need them for cloud. You don't need to get that. You don't even need them for PC. I'd be talking to Valve. If I was Nintendo and I wanted to branch out for my own hardware, I would be talking to Valve or companies that can port games to PC. I wouldn't even talk to Microsoft at this point. I would find somebody else to help with those things, because right now, Microsoft could be greasing the wheels, right? Hey, we can help with PC ports and cloud solutions. No, I'd walk them to the door. Be like, no, thank you. We're not interested. You're out here talking like you know better than us. You're out here talking about you're making moves that might open up opportunity for hostile action, or we're going to play the long game. We're going to be really patient on Nintendo. Yeah, why don't you patiently walk out the door? The second reason this is not concerning is it would require Japanese government approval. Nintendo's endemic to the culture and the economy of Japan. There is like one in every fourth Japanese citizen has purchased a Switch. If you look at the population of Japan versus how many Switches have sold there, okay? That's very, very good for your market and your economy. So I don't think the Japanese government would be okay with that. Beyond that, regulatory bodies would have something to say here, both in the West and in the UK. Like, and they're not just going to sit idly by and say, oh yeah, go ahead, buy a direct competitor. There is a universe-sized difference between buying a developer or a publisher compared to buying a direct competitor, which is also an entire platform. Activision Blizzard has been long, it's been arduous enough. I don't think they would want to go for Nintendo anytime soon. Even if they did, I think it would be blocked, like across the board. If regulatory bodies are actually awake, they would say, no, this is not the same as buying assets to sell. You're buying your direct competitor. All right. Now let's consider why this is concerning. Okay. It's pretty clear that Xbox's path to competing is heavily linked and grounded in consolidation. Nintendo is not the only target discussed in this email. Yes, the email was in 2020, and this resulted in ZeniMax being purchased. Now, Activision Blizzard is basically clear for takeoff, right? The CMA just this morning announced their provisional approval. The appeal is essentially over. This seems to be in large part related to selling cloud rights to Ubisoft. That seems to have answered some of the CMA's concerns. A company the size of Microsoft looking at the gaming market and saying, how much can we buy? How much can we consolidate? Right? This should be a worry for consumers. The amount of people who think Microsoft is being benevolent in these actions, you truly astound me, the people that think this. Like, it is bewildering. Out of all of the businesses in the world, you think they're the benevolent one. Like, and you can't have it both ways either, by the way. A lot of people hand-waved this and said, that's just business. Business is cutthroat. Microsoft's ruthless. Well, then you can't argue that they're benevolent. Okay? If they're cutthroat, if they're ruthless, if they're going to do whatever it takes to succeed, do you really think they're benevolent to you? Do you think they're going to buy Nintendo and it's going to be altruistic? That they're going to seek the good of you, the consumer? Like, you can't argue in one breath that they're basically cutthroat pirates and in the next breath act like there's some benevolent God that's going to buy all this stuff and just give it to everybody for nothing. Companies of this size do not spend this kind of money because they like you. This is their business model. Outspend, gobble up, shrink the competition. These are actions that never benefit the consumer. Study any basic economics textbook. This is not good for you. Never has been, never will be. Any student of history will tell you that Microsoft's approach to break into gaming, it's antithetical to consumer choice. Look at Embracer Group right now as a cautionary cautionary tale. Studios facing layoffs, potential studio foreclosure, being sold off. How many games and IPs are completely frozen right now because of what's going on with Embracer? This is evidently going to lead to more layoffs, because if they do sell off some of these assets and companies, whoever buys them will probably want to recoup cost. Microsoft simply is not going to spend this level of capital on Activision Blizzard and not immediately take actions to recoup costs by downsizing or even killing studios and projects. Beyond that, just think about what Phil Spencer said. His outlook is that it would be a career moment to achieve monopolistic behavior. That's how he sees gaming and the gaming market. Buying an entire platform, buying a direct competitor, that's a career moment for him. It's honestly even more baffling, I think, and concerning, seeing pundits and supposed journalists acting like this is no big deal. Imagine any other sector of the global economy having such blatant bias within its reporting. Hand-waving, ignoring, brushing this under the rug, talking about, look at all the games that got leaked. What about the CEO of Xbox saying it would be a career moment to achieve a monopolistic merger? What about that? Like, you're not going to talk about that? Like, this has to be one of the single and most clearest pieces of evidence that we do not have a proper gaming journalist standard. The same outlets and the folks who have cheered for the Activision deal would likely do the same if Nintendo was on the docket. And that's when you know you are not dealing with somebody who cares about the market or the consumer. They care about a brand. And that level of allegiance is scary because it's almost cult-like. Anyone who doesn't take Xbox seriously continues to ignore the man behind the curtain. Microsoft. They are not a company to ignore. Once companies reach the size of Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, they should be watched with a skeptical eye, not blind faith and just blind support. If you just rank by market cap, Microsoft is either second or third. They're behind Apple and Saudi Arabian oil. Okay, that's the company that you think is benevolent. So, could Microsoft buy Nintendo? Well, I sure hope not, because consumers are better off with choice. And listen, if we don't pay attention, Microsoft will do what they did with Windows and Microsoft Office. They will eliminate your choices. And that is not a future of gaming that I want to see, and neither should you. So let me give you my thoughts and my conclusion here. The Xbox leaks have been eye-opening for some, okay? Others are simply shrugging this off and saying, that's just capitalism, baby. It's such an intellectual argument. But some of these emails and leaks are vindicating, and they're confirming of so much of what some of us have said. And the sad reality is, it doesn't matter what we learn or see. Many will justify, hand-wave, or simply say, well, you would support it if Sony did it. No, I wouldn't. I've said many times, I do not want major players buying up the market like this. Apple, Amazon, Google, Tencent, they are probably chomping at the bit right now, waiting for the Activision deal to close. And Embracer Group could literally be just freeing up funds to make their own purchases. Their layoffs, their downsizing, all of that, and seeking to sell studios, that could be quite literally to free up funds so they could make some of their own purchases. Now, none of this helps the market. None of this helps the consumer. And yet, consumers cheer for this loudly. The second thing I want to say is the truly shocking thing about these leaks was not the leaks themselves. It was people acting like Microsoft owning Nintendo would be good for us. More games in more places has become a one-size-fits-all ideology. Just let Microsoft buy Nintendo, let them buy Sony, and let them buy Steam, right? According to your logic, well, Xbox is this benevolent god of gaming. They're going to put games everywhere for the good of gamers. The amount of trust that people have in the assumed goodness of Xbox is more scary than any email Phil can send. My conclusion is this. If there's a silver lining to the Xbox leaks, it isn't just being able to make content and have discussions and to tweet about it. It's the market and the globe getting a clear picture at what Microsoft wants to do to gaming. Hopefully both the regulators and companies like Nintendo are seeing things even more clearly now. The share buybacks are a sign that Nintendo may have sensed that something was afoot. Maybe not, it could have been unrelated. But now, we all see with eyes wide open. The truth is, out now in view of the public, Xbox wants Nintendo, and they are willing to play the long game to get them. And that is something that I hope we never see happen. not just for Nintendo's sake, not just for your sake, but for all of our sake. And that's the show open. Thank you guys so much for being here. Make sure you push the like button. Make sure you consider doing all of the things that supports the channel. I really, really greatly appreciate it. We sat on this one because I really felt that this was the one I needed to stew on it for a few days to really get my thoughts in order, and I appreciate you guys supporting the channel all week as we discussed other things. Even Cyberpunk got its own day yesterday, and now today we're circling back to these Nintendo leaks, and it was a little chilly this morning, and I had my Puma jacket on, and now I'm getting warm. We got to take this off. So thank you guys so much for being here. Let me check. I got some things to thank here. We got Leo Merzes is VIP, upgraded to VIP. My man Ginger Prime with 24 months. 24 months. He says 2 years, boom, baby. Techno Tyrant jumps back in at a member plus and says, Valve is off the table to Microsoft. It's privately held and the de facto PC digital platform. No one but Gabe knows the value of Valve and he hates Microsoft. Well, hopefully whoever replaces Gabe when he finally retires, he's got somebody to protect Valve. And a 10 bomb comes in from Behemoth. And don't forget, Han shot first and so did you. Thank you so much. That is the first gifted member of the day. Thank you very, very much for doing that. Let me update the member goal and count right now to 10. And that's not going away for some reason. So give me 1 second here. I think I double pressed it. And now it's, there we go. There we go. Get out of here. We want to see Han Solo is who we want to see. There we go. There's Han Solo. Thank you so much. Gabe's not the only owner of Valve. Is that your soccer coach jacket? I'm going to wear that when it gets colder. Yeah. I have matching pants and everything. I'm going to be so cliche. It's going to be wonderful. The Great Reset with a $5 super chat says, Nintendo pioneered the modern gaming landscape. Phil acting like he knows this industry better than Nintendo is arrogant and disrespectful. I got to tell you, Nintendo is Japanese owned and operated, and an honor shame culture. I don't think they're going to take too kindly to somebody saying, well, I know better than them. They don't really realize what their future is. I know what their future is. Like I said, I would have walked him out of the door. I'd be like, we don't really need to talk to you anymore. We see how you view us. You see us as a juicy asset that you're just waiting to scoop up when the opportunity strikes. Yeah, we're good. We're good. It's been nice talking to you. Not to mention, if Nintendo wants to branch out into mobile, cloud, or PC, they don't need Microsoft to do that. They don't. You think Nintendo needs help with that? They could literally talk to anybody. They could talk to any porting company. They could talk to Valve. Do you think Valve would be, reticent to help Nintendo bring games to Valve? Come on, man. Nintendo has their own developers, by the way. You think they couldn't figure out how to build a game or port a game to PC? They'd be like, we just don't know how to do this. We need Microsoft after all. Because, Microsoft's known for great, game and development right now. Come on. Grady upgrades to Member Plus. Thank you so much. Phil having no idea what he's doing. LOL. Microsoft should run for president. In 1999, Nintendo laughed Microsoft out of the office when they attempted to try and take them over. We see what your future is, Phil. It's last place all over. F off, Phil. Please stop. I don't get enough thoughts that make me depressed. A 20 bomb, a big one comes in. 20 members. That is also the Agents of Chaos. You're pushing us past the goal. 30 members. And that's honestly, that's everything. That's also a layup. That's a layup. The 20 bomb will put us all the way to 50. Behemoth says, I love the chat and the amazing energy. Thank you, Behemoth, for absolutely just dropping bombs on chat today. Jez, are you watching the stream? Jez tweeted. He said yesterday, LOL, Xbox will shut down by 2027. Today, OMG, Xbox is a monopoly. Oh, he's watching the show. Jez, I like you. We had a cordial exchange. I've actually not said LOL, Xbox will shut down. I said, according to Phil's own logic, they're going to have to make some pretty significant moves to grow Game Pass off of the actual Xbox. If not, according to Phil, they will shut down. They'll walk away from the business. I could see them turning into a publisher instead of a platform by that time, because if they get all these assets from ABK, they could say, listen to what Phil says. He's like, we need most of our customers to be off our own hardware, right? I've never once been like, LOL, they're going to shut down. I said they're going to have a hard decision to make if they don't get the growth that they want to get. And I'm also not today saying they're a monopoly. I'm saying the man at the helm thinks that a monopolistic merger would be a career moment for him. He thinks that he knows better than Nintendo. He's playing the long game to get Nintendo. Like, that should be concerning. You're like, well, that's fine. That's fine. We don't care about that. Like, imagine if anybody else said that. You know, imagine if Sony said that about Nintendo. You don't think people would be like, oh my gosh, Jim Ryan's out here thinking it'd be a career moment to have a monopolistic merger, go and buy a direct competitor. Are you kidding me? Victory with the 10 spot. The most egregious part of the leak is Phil blatantly asking friends to buy up shares of Nintendo so they can pull them together and push Nintendo to sell. That's illegal. Well, he didn't say that. He said that he was in touch with somebody who was. He said he was in touch with somebody who was. He's like, I'm in touch with this guy. He's acquiring. That might give us an opportunity. Like I said, Interstellar Kev with a $2 super chat tip. When Xbox dies, where do you see the industry going? I actually don't think Xbox dies. I think Xbox is going to morph into something that's no longer a console. Right? It would be a career-defining moment, but we also know if Sony hasn't said the same thing. I can tell you confidently Sony hasn't said the same thing because Sony would never have the capital to buy Nintendo. It wouldn't even be feasible. Sony does not have the ability to spend that kind of money. There's only a handful of companies that could be saying this privately and have it being reasonable, and it ain't Sony. Sony does not have the ability to spend this kind of money. The ability to buy Nintendo would have to come from somebody of Microsoft's size. So an Amazon or a Google or an Apple. Sony is not big enough at all to do that. I guarantee you there's never been a single word of this uttered privately. Not to mention the pattern with PlayStation is to buy smaller studios that they're already working with. Why? It's a lot more affordable and it's a lot more symbiotic. Instead of, well, let's just buy Nintendo. What? What do you mean? Like, we can't even afford that. Almost 800 viewers. Bro, drop the best opener. Get the likes up. Thank you, Brown Excellence, for 8 months of membership. Thank you so much. The history between Sony and Nintendo and the absence of funds makes it not possible. Yeah, they wouldn't even consider it. Like, they wouldn't even consider it. What about Sony? Is gaming culture 101? That's what I'm saying. Like, come on. Come on, Ginger. Come on. Ginger, you were on Twitter, and you were saying, because you retweeted my tweet, and you said that, this would, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I don't know exactly what you said, so I'm going to paraphrase, because I said, I can't wait for the consolidation cheerleaders to act like this is not a big deal, right? More games in more places. You seem to think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to straw man here. You seem to think that if Microsoft bought Nintendo, it would be better because all of a sudden their games would be in more places, right? As long as you get Mario on PC, you're good. And I'm like, are you nuts? Are you nuts? A monopolistic merger is okay because you can play Mario on PC? You're crazy. You're a crazy redhead, all right? I've heard redheads are crazy, Ginger, but you're a crazy redhead if you think that, brother. There's no freaking way. There's no way. 10 spot from Gonter O'Dim. It's internal communique. Sony Entertainment isn't really that much better. They're publicly traded companies, so they answer to shareholders. Sony has its own issues, too, to put things into context. We're not talking about Sony. I swear, Phil Spencer could send an email that says, I think tomorrow I'm going to sacrifice at least 4 cats to Odin. And you'd be like, yeah, but I think Jim Ryan probably worships Zeus. Like, it just doesn't freaking matter what we find, what is said. It doesn't matter. We always run to Sony. Joker Quinn with a single gifted member, pushing us to 31 members on the day. Thank you so much, Joker Quinn. And B-Rex Media with a 6-month resub. Nintendo and Microsoft can't read. Nintendo, when Microsoft proposes an acquisition of them. How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? What did Ginger say? Video games are natural monopolies? What does that even mean? What? What do you mean video games are natural monopolies? How? If I want Mario, I got to go to Nintendo. If I want God of War, I got to go to PlayStation. If I want Halo, I got to go to PC or Xbox. Those are competitors with different products that I can go buy. And the value of those products tend to increase because they have to offer something that's compelling against the other guy. That's always better for me because they are forced to consider price and value offer. What's the Sony Mario? Probably God of War. Aloy's probably on the way of being that as well. Sony's got a handful of properties that are extremely iconic. I would actually say the biggest and most commercially successful piece of property now that Sony has would be Spider-Man, Natural Monopoly. What is the definition of monopoly? Derek says, we joke about being on the evil timeline now. Imagine if Microsoft actually bought the big Nintendo and how they would massacre the IPs. Mario Infinite. We'll put Yoshi in next year. Maybe. I don't understand here saying they're natural monopolies. A monopoly is a multiplayer economics themed board game. So how is it a natural monopoly? How? We need a monopoly definition. It literally gave me the definition of the frickin' game, right? The exclusive possession or control of the supply of or trade in a commodity or service. So, what you're describing is one company owning all the video games. The commodity or the service is video games, right? Like the commodity or service of fast food cheeseburgers, and there's multiple places to go get fast food cheeseburgers. That's the commodity. That's the service, okay? A commodity or service would be, they're building a bunch of new car washes in my city, okay? That's a service. If there was one company that owned every single car washing service, that would be a monopoly. They own the service, okay? So owning the commodity, well, the commodity would be video games. See, you're inserting your own definition. The definition of monopoly is not the exclusive possession or control and supply or trade of an intellectual property. Like, that's not a monopoly. Why? Because every company does that. Every company has the rights and the distribution control and the selling control of their property, whether it's Mario or God of War or Halo. That is not what a monopoly is. That's property. A monopoly is defined by somebody owning all possession and control of the commodity or the service. Nobody has that right now. Nobody. And if Microsoft suddenly bought Nintendo, they would have a massive amount of control over the video game commodity market. Like, yeah, now we own almost all of it. The only thing we don't have now is Sony in the console space. That's it. We got it all except for Sony. Ratchet & Clank is Sony's Mario. I think commercially we would say Spider-Man, because Spider-Man is so incredible. The commodity is the IP. You're creating a categorical problem, Ginger, because now every single company is a monopoly. The Big Mac is a monopoly. It is. Every single Disney piece of property is now under threat of being considered a monopoly because they create the show and you can only get it on Disney+. Like, every single piece of IP owned, sold, and owning the distribution rights, whether it's, I mean, goodness gracious, like anything then is a monopoly. You're taking the definition and completely changing it, therefore making it irrelevant, because that makes every business in existence a monopoly. You don't need to agree, but we're seeing the addition of new ideas and investments with new handhelds supported by investments. It's not a matter of me not needing to agree. You are objectively wrong. There's no economist, there's nobody that would accept that definition that, well, that's a monopoly because they own the right to sell the Big Mac. Well, that's a commodity because they own the rights to sell Halo. They own the rights to sell Mario. That's a monopoly. That means every company's a monopoly, which completely eradicates the definition of the word, because the definition of the word is designed to say, once you buy all the control of this service or commodity, that's a problem. You're wrong, but I love you. You've not falsified my claim. I falsified yours. Somebody arguing that every company is a monopoly, that's nonsensical. That means we don't have any categories then. You've just turned every business enterprise into a monopoly. I'm saying video games like social media is a natural monopoly, and you supported your premise. So we have your premise. Your premise is video games are a natural monopoly. You supported your premise by saying, well, they own and control. Let's just take Mario as a good example. Nintendo owns the distribution rights and the IP of Mario. You say, well, that's a natural monopoly. That means every single company is a monopoly then. They're all monopolies. Eugene says he's not even using the term correctly. He said, here's the definition of a natural monopoly. A natural monopoly is a type of monopoly in an industry or sector with high barriers to entry and startup costs that prevent any rivals from competing. There are what indie titles alone disprove the claim that video games are a natural monopoly. We've had absolutely explosive video games just this year. Just this year alone. I mean, you've got game companies with 2 or 3 employees hitting insane success rates. So, no, the barrier of entry into the video games market is not at all. It's not at all insane with startup costs that prevent rivals from entering. Now, if you want to talk about video game platforms, again, we have multiple. Ergo, it's not a natural monopoly because you've got Nintendo, you've got Microsoft, you've got Sony, you've even got handhelds entering the picture now with the Steam Deck and the Asus ROG Ally. And indie titles are everywhere? Are you sure about that? Ginger, how many indies are only on Steam? You've confirmed my point, thank you. By pointing to what? Indie titles that are almost very commonly only found on Steam, therefore not available on Nintendo, Sony, or Xbox? There's a sea. There's an ocean of games, indie titles that are only available on PC. I've not confirmed your point. I've weakened it. I've weakened your point. If anything, there is no large barrier of entry into video games. I'm refuting your use of the word natural monopoly, and now you're like, oh, you're proving my point. How? The ocean of indies that are on Steam, the explosion of indies within gaming disproves the claim that video games are a natural monopoly. So that premise and claim has been falsified. Now we're going to say that, well, indie titles are everywhere. No, they're not. The grand majority of indies are only on Steam. The grand majority of indies are only on Steam. Therefore, indie titles are not facing a natural monopoly. They're entering the market just fine. I don't understand how what I just said is strengthening your case that video games are a natural monopoly. How? And then the success of indie titles, like Death's Door, for example, and now it's on every platform because they got the funding so they could support a port, basically. They brought Death's Door. It's like 2 guys. They had like 100,000 sales like the first week. So now the game's on other platforms. I don't agree with at all. Like, the use of natural monopoly has been, we've gone to the definition, so it's been a misused term. Even within its own term, it's been falsified by the sheer existence of indie titles. Beyond that, many indie titles are only on PC. They're playable in more places, and you don't need a Switch to play them. You've premise hopped on me too many times. I've lost the plot of what you're even arguing now. You're welcome to disagree. You've not even made a coherent point, my friend. First, it was video games are a natural monopoly to support the idea that Microsoft should buy Nintendo. Doesn't that compound the premise that you're arguing? A premise that I think is faulty and unsubstantiated. But even if we take the premise at face value, doesn't that compound the very premise that you're arguing for? Well, they're a natural monopoly, so we should allow a company to buy a direct competitor? Would that not then compound the natural monopoly, making it even worse? There's no competition to Mario? Sure there is. There's other games to play. What do you mean? What do you mean there's no competition to Mario? How? There's other games to buy and play. There's no competition to the Big Mac. Sure there is. There's the Whopper. What are you saying? I'd love it if Nintendo started supporting more places. I would love that too, if it's their choice. I don't want them coerced into it through a monopolistic merger. I would love right now to be able to boot up Breath of the Wild on my PC legally. I don't want to talk to you thieves. I'm talking about, like, I would love to boot up Breath of the Wild on my PC legally, but I don't want the road to get there to be monopolistic consolidation. You're talking hamburgers, I'm talking games. Yes, because They're identical in essence. One company spends its own money, its own resources, its own research and development to make the best burger, the best game, and then you gotta go to them to buy it. Imagine that you do that, Ginger. Imagine you create something and it's yours. Like, I don't know, all of your YouTube content. And someone comes along and says, well, I shouldn't only have to come to your YouTube channel to watch this. It would be better for everybody if this content was everywhere. And they just stole your content and they put it everywhere. It was all over the place. They were restreaming your stuff on Kick and Twitch. They were re-uploading your stuff on Rumble. Would you be okay with that? They're not crediting you. They're not linking to you. They're just like, yeah, here's the content, and you get no money from it. They just steal it. Would you be okay with that? It's yours. You created it, and they just take it. They don't react to it or anything. They just re-upload it. They just replace your content elsewhere, which, if my memory is correct, you have a serious problem with reaction meta on YouTube because it essentially serves as a replacement to your content, therefore hurting your content, which means Mario only existing on Nintendo because they built it, they researched it, it's their property. They have every right to do that, right? They shouldn't be coerced or forced into having Mario be everywhere. If you want Mario, you got to go to Nintendo. That to me, that's logical. That's the entire market of everything that's intellectual property. Hang on, I got to interact with some more people here. Eugene says, there's no imperative legal or moral to compel Nintendo to allow Mario to be everywhere. Our legal system, in fact, protects Nintendo from having to do that. Right, so there's law. There is no imperative here. That they do, that's not the argument I'm making. Okay, but the ends don't justify the means. That's the issue I have with what you're saying. Pragmatism can break your back if you stretch it too far. You're essentially saying the ideal is that Mario's everywhere, so I'd be okay with Microsoft buying Nintendo. Whoa, 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 what? No. We don't use the ends to justify the means. That is a fallacious way to argue for anything. You would never argue that. In child rearing, there are abhorrent practices by parents, and they get acquiescence and obedience. Does the obedient child, does the quiet, well-mannered, disciplined child, does that justify the means that got there? No. We would never argue that. That leads to abhorrent things and terrible things. And so we can't argue that I would love for Mario to be on PC. It'd be great. I'd get better performance. I wouldn't have to worry about 30 FPS. It'd be awesome. I can't get there. Do you know what I don't do? I don't steal the games to play them on my PC. I don't justify theft because, the ideal is me getting to play the game on PC. And I would never justify a monopolistic merger so that, I can get Mario on PC now. Good for me. No, that would be bad for the market. That would be bad for the consumer. I'm okay with it. I'm okay if it doesn't happen. In the end, I'm not worried one day or the other about a thought experiment. What I do like, and the reason why I make the case is, I wish I could set my own character limit on chat. It gets a conversation going, and maybe, just maybe, Nintendo goes, yeah, let's do this. My honest opinion on this, Ginger, and I think this is a more enjoyable discussion, I actually think Nintendo will start to do that, but it's not going to happen in the next generation of their console. I think Nintendo Switch, their market saturation gives them so much power, they will feel no need to do that. However, I can see a future where Sony is kind of laying the groundwork, because Sony and Nintendo have very much mimicked the idea of come to our hardware, come to our console for our stuff. So I could see Mario down the line. I could see a Mario game getting ported to PC because I see Nintendo compelled by the commercial advantage of that, but I don't see them going to Microsoft for the solution. I don't think you would go to your direct competitor to say, hey, help us out here. This is why I decide to emulate any. If I decide to emulate any Zelda from Twilight Princess and above, I won't feel guilty. I bought those games. Right. If someone emulates a game that they own, I don't really have any qualms with that. It's the people that steal. It's like I don't justify that. I don't think that that's okay to literally steal video games because like, well, I don't want to buy a Switch. Well, then okay. Like that's like saying I don't want to buy Disney Plus, so you steal all their property. Like, where does it end? You're like, well, I don't feel like buying from that company or supporting that company, so I'm going to steal all the stuff that they have. It's like, what? Like, I don't think that's justified at all. You need to demand from us as gamers to make this something worth the risk of doing it. And Ginger, that's a healthy economy when consumer demand drives choice, not monopolistic mergers shrinking choice. Like, that's the issue. Historically speaking, this level of a merger would be absolutely terrible for us. The idea that like, oh, we're gonna benefit from this. We're gonna get Nintendo games on PC. No, I think what you would do is you would see tectonic destruction of property. It wouldn't be good at all. You would see massive exodus of developers. You'd have tons of people that work for Nintendo and develop for Nintendo. They'd frickin' walk. They'd be like, I don't want anything to do with this. I don't want to work for that company. It would be horrible. I'm fine with emulation, but I wish Nintendo would just make it happen so I could support that action, but I'm 100% against theft. Aerodyma says, with our phones aggressively getting better every year, the Switch 2 will be obsolete by the time it comes out. Well, no, this isn't true according to the leaks. According to the leaks, the Nintendo Switch 2 will be quite impressive with DLSS. So no, I don't think so. You also have to understand something, Aerodymus. The Switch dominated with IP. It did not dominate with power. To posture as if Nintendo's in trouble if they don't have power is laughable in light of the current stats. Like Nintendo's like, you need power? That's funny. That's funny. We have something that's weaker than a cell phone. 129 million in sales. And you think we need power. Like, they're laughing at the notion. Nintendo's like, we don't need power. We have Mario. We have Pokemon. We have Zelda. You think we need power? Do you know who we are? Nintendo walks into any room and is like, say my name. Like, we're Nintendo, bro. We don't need power. We sold cardboard. Transmissions from a spaceboat with 21 months. Moot point. Ben Starr is buying Nintendo. Give me a piece of Kirby. He's so funny. I absolutely love that guy. What a treasure he is. Give me some Kirby. I told everybody I was going to do this. Big Lido is 6 months. Says, whoop, whoop. Thank you very much. Big Lido. Most importantly, they have a loyal customer base. You have to understand something, too. Companies are motivated, as Ginger was saying, like, we have to demand this. You're working an uphill battle right now with Nintendo. There are, okay, so if you go, the Japanese population is currently estimated to be 125 million. They sold 30 million Nintendo Switches in Japan. Do a little quick math. That's like 1 in every 4th person in Japan has a Nintendo Switch. Now, what do you think happens to the demand for the Nintendo Switch 2 if they start putting their games everywhere? Do you see? They're not motivated by your ideology, your sense of entitlement. They're motivated by demand for our product. Like, oh, I missed the super chat. All right, hang on. Sorry. Victory with a $10 super chat. Kicking it with Timmy B became a member. And oh, DK Bager did a gifted member. I'm so sorry. DK Bager bumped the line to 32. Thank you very much, DK Bager. And let's see here. Thank you so much, Kicking It with Timmy B, and B-Rex Media did a resub. And Victory with a 10 spot. People are so silly, but Sony would. It doesn't matter when they can't. I would date Beyonce. It doesn't matter when I can't. The concern trolling is nuts. What about what is happening in front of us? Thank you, Victory. 2 spot from Richard Rodriguez says, I'm sensing some sort of Apple-Sony partnership. I think Apple is focused on buying Disney right now more than anything. That's my guess. And I thanked Gonter O'Dim with a 5 spot. To re-expand on my earlier statement, these are publicly traded companies. They don't care about you or me besides the money they can extract. Thank you guys so much for all those super chats and for the gifted members. I owe you guys 5 members at the current junction. And thank you so much for already getting us there. Let me give you guys a member count, because currently the current goal is Fight Night. And if you guys can get to 3,000 members, you will unlock Fight Night. And that's when my wife and I play a game against each other. And that says 2,600. Let me, why all of a sudden is this my experience on YouTube on my gaming rig? It flashes and I can't see the YouTube dashboard. It's super weird. We are at 2669, so you're 30 members away from 2,700. That would be like the next teeny milestone on the way to one of the big ones. Thank you guys so much for making that happen. 30 members would get us even closer to you guys getting a Fight Night. I love Lono's view. It doesn't mean I'm in agreement with every aspect. I would say both he and I want a bright and awesome gaming future, but we have different views on a road to that future. I think Microsoft... Well, here's the thing. This is what I love, Ginger. This is my vision for a bright gaming future. A really, really compelling Nintendo Switch 2 that can actually run games at good performance. A PlayStation 5 Pro, right? I want Xbox to actually enter... I want them to actually enter into the next-gen landscape. I don't believe that they have. If all 3 of those companies were slamming out bangers like a Zelda at 60 FPS, a Ghost of Tsushima 2 that's mind-blowing, a Halo that's been rebooted by id Software, that's the bright gaming future I want to see. I feel like Microsoft's path is not one that leads to a bright future to us, because Microsoft's bright future is... We don't have games, let's just buy the ones that are already out there. That doesn't do anything for me. Those games are already coming to market. Like, if Microsoft would have spent $300 million to put Jedi Survivor on Game Pass, that doesn't do anything for me. The game's already coming to the market. In the grand scheme of the gaming future, saving me $60, oh, I didn't have to buy your game, that doesn't do any... That's not changing the landscape of gaming. It isn't. That game was already made. It was already coming. That's why I look at Microsoft and say, this doesn't do anything for me. You consolidating the market, massive mergers, that doesn't do anything for me. These studios already have property. They already have stuff in development. It's already coming to market. You shifting where it lands or how much it costs does nothing for me. This is a leisure market, and the average salary income of people who pump the most money into this market are over 100,000 income. So those people are not compelled by bargains and dollar menu gaming. They're not. And if you look at the stats on Steam and you look at how many games are sold and how many people play there, they're not going to be compelled by Game Pass either. The bargain bin approach, the subscription approach to gaming is not sticking. It's not working. It isn't. Dalton Russell with a single member. That's just a brand new member. Welcome on in, Dalton. Thank you very much. Solemn says, emulating a game that you own using the data contained in the specific copy is not illegal at all, nor unethical, nor stealing. That's the only legal way to... Yeah, we already said that. I don't have any issue with people emulating games they own. Theft is different than, I own this, I'd rather play it on PC. That doesn't bother me at all. I don't care about that. I'm not going to grandstand on that. You bought the game, but play it wherever the heck you want. I don't care. Twisted Sin with a 5 spot. Just to let people know, Nintendo and Sony and a ton of other game companies are protected under law in Japan. Microsoft can try but will fail. Nintendo is actually not protected. Their classification requires governmental approval, and they may or may not get it, but they're not protected. It just requires governmental approval. I don't think a Japanese government would approve it because Nintendo's too endemic to their culture. Yo, Parasito with a 10 bomb. Parasito's been bringing some heat lately with the gifteds, and he puts us on the doorstep of 50. Thank you so much, Parasito. Yeah, I don't think the Japanese government would approve this. I don't. And I think the Japanese government and Nintendo need to read Phil's email and say, you're playing the long game? Go ahead and try. It's not happening. You're not getting Nintendo. You're not. You want to play the long game because you think we need to put our games elsewhere and not on our own hardware? Okay. Well, we can do that without you. You think you're the only game in town? You're in third place. So I think we'll maybe go talk to Steam. We'll go talk to Valve if we need help bringing games to PC. We can go talk to porting companies if we want to port our games, or like if we want to launch mobile titles. We don't need Microsoft. Can you imagine being the industry leader? Like, do you think McDonald's is going to go to Wendy's for tips on business? Like, what are we even talking about here? My question is, how many more acquisitions will Xbox be allowed to make? I don't actually know. A 5 bomb from Hex. My man Hex puts us even closer to the doorstep of 50. It's been a while since we got into triple digits. You guys are already on the doorstep of 50 members today. Thank you so much, Hex. And a single from Lone Wolf. If I know Lone Wolf, I know what he's going to do. He's going to walk this to 50. He is going to walk this to 50, and then it's a race to the Agents of Chaos. We're at 49 out of 50. Wendy's is fire? Sure they are. There it is. I know Lone Wolf. I know this man. I know how he operates. There it is. 50 out of 50. Who is the Agent of Chaos? Somebody's going to steal it from Lone Wolf. Just watch. Just watch. Somebody's going to snake it. Yo, what's good? Spongeroth, how are you? Lone Wolf got it. Lone Wolf got it. He did. I don't know if anybody else was going for it, but there it is. The Agents of Chaos rolls it over to 51, and that takes us to 51 out of 75. Hang on, I'm having a problem here. I can't do this. Oh, I see what I did. 51 out of 75. And Rissick with the 50 bomb! Rissick brings the Death Star into frame. This man is insane. What is going on? We got a member train. I wasn't even looking at the chat. 50 from Rissick and a 5 bomb from Mike on to Mike. That takes us all the way to 101, but then 106 because Mike and a Mike is in a house. And Patrick does 1, and Triss does 1, and I Am Melee does 1. That is 109. I just said we've not had triple digits in a minute, and frickin' Rissick says, hold my beer. Well, it's a little early in the day, so maybe he says, hold my coffee. Thank you so much, Rissick. So many members in the chat. Absolutely massive. I've not gotten to do that with Rissick's name. He's got such a good name. Rissick. Kale comes in. So many single gifteds coming in off of each other, taking us to 110 members on the day. Thank you so much, Kale. And a single from Joker Quinn. Thank you so much, Joker Quinn, for coming in and doing 1. We have a members train right now. We have 821 people here. If like half of you gifted a single member, we would blow the doors off the current goal. Yeah, Brooklyn Breed is saying upgrade to Member Plus. If you guys just got a gifted member, Siege Master gifts a 5 bomb, and that takes us to 116 members on the day. Thank you so much, Siege Master. There's 116 people that have memberships today. You can upgrade to Member Plus for $1. We have a $6 membership. What that does is that gets you out of the gifted member pool. We do a segment every day at the very end of the day called the Writer's Room. You get to be a part of the show planning of the next day. So the debrief that we do is for all members. That's after an upload. We didn't do an upload like the last 3 days because I was playing games instead. So you got 2 streams. So typically it's the morning show, then an upload, and then I debrief with all members. When all that's over, we do the Writer's Room. And the writer's room is for member plus and above. You get to be in the show planning room for the next day. AOZ with 14 months says, best show on YouTube. Can't wait for the VIP content later. That's right. You can also upgrade to VIP. That's for a once a week segment that we do on Fridays. Soul Train gifts a member, and Henry Heck gifts a member. And that takes us to 118 members on the day. Thank you guys so much. My super chat got lost in the member chain. Give me a second, Brett. I'll take care of you. Let's see here. Let me scroll up. Oh, it did. You got shoved all the way out. $5 from my man Brett. The real acquisition battle is for talent. And Xbox is bleeding talent. They'll spend their way right out of the industry at this rate. Thank you, Brett. I actually think that's one aspect of acquisition that we didn't really get to discuss. And acquisition drives talent away. That's one of my primary concerns, again, about Activision Blizzard. That's the concerns I have about 343. I've got concerns about Bethesda. Like, you're going to drive talent away. A guy in the industry recently commented on this. He's like, devs like to sell games because they get a bonus. And when you're working under a Game Pass subscription model, like what? Like, is Microsoft footing that bill? They footing the bonus bill? Luca the Satanic Game Cat renews his membership, and Lone Wolf gifts a single member, and SSJ Gohan hit 16 months into VIP. Lone Wolf actually does 2 members, 2 singles, and he's setting up the 5-bomb layup. That's a layup from Lone Wolf. Thank you so much. 120 out of 125. Yeah, I love you too, Ginger. By the way, I watched your video. You tried to talk to that guy on Twitter Spaces or whatever. It was truly remarkable. Well, I don't want to get into it on here, but the level of restraint that you showed, I thought was remarkable. I've always said this: rudeness is the weak man's imitation of strength, and I believe that was put on full display in your video. When someone is rude and abrasive, it is an imitation of strength, and I think restraint is a sign of true strength and self-control. And I thought it was a remarkable display of a man of wisdom and self-control and restraint, and a man of childish, extended adolescent, faux masculine behavior. So, yeah. I don't want to make the show about it, but I did want to give a little hat tip to you. And a 10-bomb from Detective Seeds. He comes in and says, well, you know what? 125's nice, but 130's better. And that makes you the agent of chaos. You pushed us past 125, making the next goal 150. Thank you so much. That's actually also a layup, because that's a 20-bomb layup right there. That's an easy point that Detective Seeds just scored. And Bajanga just upgraded to VIP. Thank you for doing that, Bajanga. You have to call out Ginger for his joke? I do? That's weird. That's really weird to think that I have to call out somebody for a joke. What's that meme where Captain America goes, no, I don't think I will? Yeah, that's the energy I'm feeling right now. Call out his joke. Nah. The Death Star one, popping was sweet. Yeah. The 50 bomb, the Death Star, that was Creature's idea. That was all Creature. He's like, I think the 50 bomb is the Death Star. I'm like, I dig it. Let's do it. So, yeah, but we were just kind of touching on this. I got to schedule the stream. I'm going to have a discussion with Mike. If you guys have been heavily interested in all these Xbox leaks, fear not. I'm going to do a recap. I am going to do a recap of all of these leaks with Mike in just a second here. And we will be discussing all of the leaks, right? And yeah, I got it. I took care of it. Thank you, Abe. We will be going through all the leaks. There was the leaks about the hardware. There was the leaks about the Game Pass stuff, and there was all of that. So we're gonna be going over all that together. That was my idea. I kind of thought all of them were my idea. Well, no, remember when we were discussing it, I told you that I wanted like Senua and Jin because I like wrote them all on the board. Like the Death Star was you, but I remember I threw out Senua, I threw out Jin, and then you thought, oh, who's the really hard boss in Sekiro? And I was like, oh yeah, Ishin, let's do Ishin. it was a collaborative effort, but I thought of Senua and Jin. You were definitely the one that was like, dude, we got to do Death Star for 50. And I was like, okay, let's do it. The Dizzle does a VIP renewal. Thank you very much. I'm kidding, streamer. I can't ever tell. Okay, let me schedule the stream. Lisa Semi confirmed that Oblivion will get a remaster. That's good news. I don't know how I feel about that. In my mind, and obviously I don't want to create a false binary. I think a lot of times, streamers create false binaries, or they're like, well, if they're working on an Oblivion remake, they're not working on anything else. No, that's a false binary. They can do both. But I kind of trend toward a false binary. It's like, do I really want Bethesda working on old game remakes? I'd rather have them working on the next big game. I would love a great quality of life pass to Starfield. Like, I don't know. A lot of the guys in the modding community have already done things to Starfield that make the game look stunning and completely different. I don't know. I try not to fall into the false dichotomy of, why work on a remake, work on your current game, or why work on a remake, work on a new game. I know they have different studios and different teams, but that's just where my mind goes. Like, my mind is just like, really? That's what we're going to celebrate? You bought Bethesda and that's the game plan? Like, after all the memes of them completely, over milking the Skyrim cow, like, this is what we're going to do? Like, really? I know devs can do two things at one time, like Ginger's saying, but track with me here. What if they were working on, like, a new game and another new game and another new game? I don't know. Like, I get it. Like, there was a recently, I think, really insightful paragraph about this where they talked about, like, studios and publishers are risk averse. So, like, it makes perfectly good sense to be like, hey, we've got to put ourselves in positions where we can kind of count on existing IP. Got to milk something that's got that nostalgic factor. Akuda Papa with 24 months, 2 years in this channel. It's a VIP and a red badge. And Richard Rodriguez gifts a member, and it goes to 131. Thank you so much, Richard. Let me give you guys a total member count. Let's see how close you guys are to Fight Night. We probably need to upgrade this count here. Yes, I'm going to give you an active count. I don't always do this, but you are now at 2768. That's how close you are to the 3,000 goal. Once you hit 3,000 in the month, the next one's Fright Night, where my wife and I have to play a scary game. And then the big one is 4,000 for a game night, where my wife and I will play a game with you guys. There's so many games to choose from. So you guys are really, really pushing already. This has been great. Let's see here. Hang on. Okay, 30's ready. Okay. And a single gifted member from Rodrigo. Thank you so much, man. Taking us to 132 members on the day. Almost getting that 150. What's the joke that... Oh, this guy keeps bringing up the joke. Let's see when he made his channel. Hang on a minute. He made his channel in March of this year. Cool, man. I tell you what, dude. If Ginger's joke is that upsetting for you, you need to find the nearest preschool or soft room so you can live in a very safe, comfy, cozy environment. This channel on the internet's not safe for you, so that's my life advice to you. If stand-up comedy is that upsetting, then it's time to move into a preschool or a soft place, somewhere where they only play with, like, colored blocks and, nothing too upsetting. We don't want anything too upsetting for you, okay? Yo, Ducks hits 2 months of membership. Love the streams. Keep up the good work. And Mackie gifts a single member. Thank you so much, Mackie, coming in and taking us to 133. It was one of Ginger's stand-ups. Yeah. Ginger made a joke about you like your kids the more they're far away from you, which is actually kind of funny as a dad. You love your kids. It's easier to like them more the further they are away from you. I thought it's a as a dad, I'm like, yeah, man. You know, kids can be annoying. Kids can be annoying, bro. Yo, Mackie, upgrades to Member Plus. Thank you so much, Mackie. New Member Plus. You love to see it. DK Bager comes in with a single gifted member and bumps the line to 134. You guys love to go crazy on Friday. It must be payday. It must be payday. Y'all love to go big on Friday. I'm over here trying to get into this stream with Mike with 30 and Still Gaming. That was the joke. Well, the joke was he tacked on to it, Eugene. He says you like your kids the further they are away from you. And then he makes a joke about minorities in your neighborhood. Like, it's the most harmless joke ever. It's so harmless. It's like, there are people with Netflix specials that go way further than that. It was so harmless. It was like, what? Is this really the joke? This is the one? I was like, all right, this is the joke. This is the career-ending moment for Ginger. I was like, where are we? What year is it? Goodness gracious. Let's go here. Let's go here. Cyberpunk's quest director says that Phantom Liberty is what the game was supposed to be. Really? Yo, Zinthos with another gifted. I'm trying to get things set up to pull Mike in. 135. Thank you very much. Yeah. He goes on to make his own self-deprecating joke about gingerification because he's a ginger. Like, it's. I'm telling you, it's so harmless. Gosh, if it was any more harmless, it would be a knock-knock joke. I'm serious. If it was any more harmless, it would be a knock-knock joke. All right, hang on. I gotta switch this around so that I can hear Mike. Mike, are you there?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, I don't have my camera plugged in. Hang on. I was actually playing video games. I know that's hard to believe.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's like, why would I do that?
I didn't know this was a gaming channel.
Okay. Don't switch. And is it using this mic?
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
wait. Say something? No. Oh, it is. Yeah. But when you did that with your... I didn't hear the finger, but I heard your mouth. Yeah, I can hear
Okay.
you. Yeah.
I'll do the whole show like that. Make everybody really uncomfortable. Well, no, I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable. It's like 2 years, I'll see a twit longer. Goodness gracious. Yeah. Can't have
People
that.
might get offended, yeah.
Oh, boy. All right, let's keep the goal up here for you guys to see it. I will gift the members that I owe you in the next stream. What happened with the CMA? Oh, they did a provisional approval. So I thought they would once they sold the cloud rights to Ubisoft. So I already had a Nintendo show written up. I was like, okay, cool, good job. We knew it was going to get approved. Like, I wasn't shocked. I've been saying for a while that, you know, this deal's going through.
We should do the whole show where we're just whispering like this.
I get really uncomfortable.
It's like the walls are closing in on you. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I like some ASMR, but it can't be like somebody that I know. It's like
Can you imagine though? Like you talk about a topic that's really like gets you angry, but you're like whispering at it. You're like, God damn it. People
or as I get more angry, as I get more angry, the quieter I get. It's like,
they're like, what's going on?
This is exactly what I'm talking about.
Like, oh my God.
That would be a really funny skit to be like, listen, man, you're really agitating me. And
yeah.
Like, also, I can't hear what you're saying. That makes them more angry.
They're turning it up the thing really loud.
Oh, that's good. Okay, Cristiano upgraded to a VIP, and Brian M hits 8 months. Tap your mic to see if it's operable. Yeah, I'm not going to tap mic. I was tapping the mic. What's going on here? Why can't it find you on Twitter? What is this?
Find me on Twitter?
It's just 30 and still gaming, right?
Yeah.
You know how it has like the pop-up? And
Yeah.
It like pre-populates?
It probably doesn't show up because I barely ever use Twitter. So it's like, is this guy still on Twitter? I don't know. I mean, I still call it Twitter, so.
I just followed you and it's still not populated. Because I'm using my Reforge Gaming account. I follow you on the other one. Oh, well.
Oh, I hate ASMR eating. It's the worst. It is the worst.
Oh,
I agree.
mukbang? Oh, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn.
Hey, you can't find me on Twitter because it's X now. That's right. You're on the wrong website.
You know, I actually don't know what's more annoying. Is it the fact that people call it X or is it that they correct me and say that it's X? Like I've not been able to decide which one.
Is the X silent?
That's not funny.
Is that not how it works?
But it's funny.
That's not how it works?
I don't know why. You are so serious.
That's what makes it funny. Yeah. Yeah, that's what makes it funny.
That I should not be laughing at that. That's not that funny. Oh man. Ask Elon. You know. Is the X silent? What? What the? What? We just live in a circus of a timeline. Goodness gracious.
This is actually, you know that particle accelerator they made like a couple years ago, like a decade ago, I guess it is now, where they can make atoms. I think something went off and it actually changed the universe that we're in. I do.
Yeah, we're on a different timeline. This is not where we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Hey guys, do me a favor. We're actually going to switch streams. If you've not pressed the like button yet, could you do that? There's over 700 of you here. Get us to 400 likes. Then we're going to switch to a new stream, which also needs your likes. Like a lot of the times when we go over to the stream with Mike, we're like struggling to get likes. So consider that whenever we go over and do these streams, it's actually a second stream and it needs those likes, okay? Hang on, I gotta pull up in my own streams because I don't even remember what we talked about this week. That's what we're recapping. I'm like, huh? Okay. Okay. And we're also going to redirect. If you guys want to go over now, if redirects typically don't work, there's a link in chat. It'll also be the featured video on the channel, okay? It will be the featured video on the channel. We're going to have a discussion about all of the leaks. Thanks so much for checking out a weekly segment that I do with my man 30 and Still Gaming, and we got a whole lot to recap and cover this week in the Reforge Recap. Sometimes the title and thumbnail will say Reforge Recap, but this week we're not covering a bunch of different gaming topics. We're just going to be covering all of the Xbox leaks. I broke it into 3 sections throughout the week. I covered the hardware leaks first, then the stuff about Game Pass, and then just this morning we talked about how they still want Mario. Now we're going to pepper in here the fact that the CMA has provisionally approved the Activision deal. Seems that selling the cloud rights to Ubisoft has helped. So I'm going to end the previous stream about Nintendo and bring everybody over with a redirect. Make sure when you guys come over, you smash like on the previous video as well.